Today on the Diz List, we discuss the top 5 in-park originals at Walt Disney World.
Welcome to the Diz List, the podcast that ranks everything in Walt Disney World. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rob, and welcome to episode 68, where we discuss the top 5 in-park originals at Walt Disney World. Let's discuss that a little bit. That was a difficult title to come up with, but let's explain it the best way we can here.
Yeah, so we went back and forth. We actually already recorded one time.
Yeah, and we went back because, the term IP we want to use.
Correct.
We use it all the time.
Not everybody understands what we mean.
Right. So we want to be clear at the beginning. If we were to retitle it, we would title it Top 5 in Original In-Park IP.
Correct.
But not everyone knows what IP is. So IP stands for what, Nick? Give us a definition here.
Intellectual property.
Right.
It can be songs, pictures, artwork, stories, anything like that is considered intellectual property, something you came up with in your brain.
So what we're looking for is something that the Imagineers came up with that didn't exist anywhere else before it was in the park.
Right. So I'll give an example of something that existed outside of the parks prior, like Snow White. Snow White was IP that didn't even belong to Disney. Snow White gets created by Disney.
Yep.
And now we have a Snow White themed ride on both coasts.
Yeah.
Those are not part of something we could talk about in this episode because it's not original to the park.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say is my best way of describing what we mean today.
Right. Like I will use, I don't think this is on your list. I'm going to go off on a limb here. We may end up deleting this.
Okay.
For example, Jungle Cruise. Jungle Cruise is oh geez.
Jungle Cruise is original IP.
Yeah, you're looking at your list now. Seriously, do I have to delete this?
Jungle Cruise is original IP.
It is.
So
that would be one that we would use as an example. You're looking at your phone here.
No, I'm looking at my phone.
All right.
You're good.
Okay. I use that one for a reason because that one is not on my list.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
All right.
I'm not worried about it.
All right, good.
Even if it were on my list, what's the big deal?
No, nothing.
Right.
I don't want to spoil stuff. You know, you call me the spoiler sometimes.
Well, I mean, guys, let me just tell you, I'll pull the curtain back for a moment.
Go ahead.
Rob always says after he's seen a movie, now this won't spoil it, but there's this scene.
Look, I'm better about it now.
Yes, you are. I agree.
But
you are better about it now.
Okay, you can finish. I cut you off from making.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead. It's true. I admit I've goofed up a couple times.
Let me rephrase what I was saying. Rob used to say, let me tell you about this scene. It's really not going to be a spoil. I won't spoil anything. I just got to tell you about this one part. And then he describes like Anakin Skywalker fighting Ahsoka. And you're like, what the hell, dude?
It wasn't that bad.
No, I know. But like usually it was something that was just like, man, I would have liked to have seen this originally without. So it's not a big deal. Rob's a good movie, good movie guy now. And he doesn't do that now.
Do we need to go back and bleep out what you just said? We might have to.
I mean, I just played the part of Rob.
Right.
Okay. I don't know. Speaking of bleeping stuff out, I would have to bleep out my reaction.
Yeah.
My live reaction to the news that came out of Disney this week if we were on the air when it came out.
Yeah.
Look, you're offering a bunch of sales for attracting people to your resorts.
Yeah. A lot.
Like a lot of them. You're offering a deal right now that involves like free, like half price, I think it was, kids tickets.
Yeah.
And then like, and then like something with the dining.
I think kids eat free.
Yeah.
Or
some craziness.
Don't quote me on that. I'm not.
And it's like this. It's a very long promotion.
Yeah.
And then the week after you announce that, you announce, hey, let's raise every single price in the park. Let's raise all of our ticket prices. Let's raise all of our annual pass prices. And I get it. Like that's something that happens and I'm prepared for it, but don't send one signal that you are struggling, right? Because that's what you're sending for a signal when you say half price kids tickets. And then turn around and like raise the price of everything. It's a lot. It is a lot of money to go to Disney. We've always said that. We've never sugarcoated that fact. That is true. However, when you start seeing prices jump the way that they did, I mean, it's just kind of annoying is what it comes down to.
I'm looking up for the 50%, but it keeps giving me Disneyland.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was, but either way, it was a good deal.
You know, it says here quick on the heading, 50% off kids theme park tickets and dining at Walt Disney World. So yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. And that's like a long time. It's running, I think, through till June.
Yeah.
And I don't know, to turn around and then raise the ticket prices as much as they have.
Just a weird contradiction, I think.
It is. And okay, congratulations, you can stay for cheaper, but because we want to attract you to stay here, but we're going to raise the price of tickets because now that you're on property, like if you weren't sold, right? Let's say you were not sold on going to Disney and all you've been hearing is how expensive it is.
Or how difficult it is.
Right.
That's part of it too. Like so someone tells you, hey man, you got to live off of this app. And you're like, I'm not a tech person. I'm out.
Yeah. If this was you, right? If we're describing somebody that is not a devotee, which I get, most of our listeners are not those people, but like we all have friends who are not Disney addicts, so to speak, or they're recovering. If you're one of those people and you've been hearing on the street how expensive and how difficult it is, and then in consecutive weeks, Disney talks about, let's do some discounts. Let's take away the time, the park hopping time thing. So if you have a park hopper, you don't need to worry about that.
Well, that was good news. You and I talked about that.
Yeah. So you have that, right? And then they buried it. Like they buried that lead. Like they buried it by then now saying what's CNBC going to run? They're not running a story about the sales. They're running a story about how Disney, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, just raised prices again.
And it's the most profitable branch of all of the Walt Disney Company.
Like, I'm sick and tired of park goers covering the cost of Disney Plus.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
That is what's happening.
Right? Is that because Disney Plus can't turn a profit, even with their new extremely increased prices, because that also went up.
Yeah.
I think it was this week. Like, it's like $139 or something like that for a year now to get the ad-free version, which, by the way, is $10 more than I paid as a D23 member for a 3-year subscription.
Jeez.
4 years ago. Like,
wow.
Like, I don't get it. And it's okay for us to call out Disney on this stuff sometimes. And I think it needs to happen.
Yeah.
Like, why do we cover the cost of all their other ventures that don't work? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Well, I think during COVID, they just decided, okay, well, parks aren't working. We got to lean in hard on Disney Plus, it's a great service. But I think all the time when I open up my Disney Plus app and I'm looking around inside there and I'm thinking, I've kind of watched everything I want to watch.
It's good. The Star Wars stuff is great. The content.
Right. But it's, so I watched Star Wars and right now I think, did Ahsoka just finish? Did I? Yeah,
yes,
it did. I had to remember because it's been a crazy week. They also just started Loki, which was very good.
Okay.
Very good. And I don't like a lot of the Marvel series, but the three of us, my daughter was somewhere, but my wife and son and I, we watched Loki and we like paused in the middle of the show and went, this is really good. Because so many of them are not really good.
Yeah.
And it's, it's all about time jumping. And if you're into that kind of thing, alternate dimensions and all that, it's definitely up your alley. But I'll go into that app, back to my point here. I'll go into the Disney Plus app and look around and go, okay, watch that, saw that. And I don't watch a ton of TV. We're busy. Our kids are involved in activities and sports and stuff. So I'm not home watching TV all the time. And I still go in there and there's really only 2 things I can watch. And then when those shows are over, like Ahsoka's over, luckily now I can watch Loki but Loki's going to be over, and then I'm going to be like, okay, why do I have this now?
Yeah.
Why do I have it? Like my kids, they're a little bit older. A lot of times they're not going to go back in and watch an older. Actually, my son does. That's not true. My son will go back and watch old Disney movies now and again. So, but it's, I guess, for your casual viewer, if there isn't enough new material, that's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough to pay that cost every month.
I mean, that cost, and then if you go to Disney World now, the parking is $5 more.
Yeah, 25 to 30, right?
Right, which sounds nominal, but when you start thinking about the number of people who park,
yeah,
Disney just basically like bought a house a day.
And parking, let me get this right too. I was thinking of this when I heard that news. Parking is covered if you're staying on property only. Is that right?
Yeah.
So again, that pushes them to make even more money by people saying, well, maybe I'm going to save money by staying at the All-Stars because of parking. I mean, I don't know if those numbers work out or not. I default to you on the number stuff.
But you have to pay to park at the resort.
Oh, that's true too. So it's pointless.
So you can park at
you're parking somewhere.
Correct. So it's free parking at the park, but yeah, you paid for parking at your resort.
Then I don't want a car period anymore.
Why exactly?
I'm gonna Uber and Lyft everywhere.
Here's the good news, because there is some good. I just take issue with the way the PR went out. Right, they should have released these increases, then talk about the deals and everything else. Like, because now what are we talking about? We're talking about the price increases. But if you're a family and you go through a travel agent who knows how to get that, the package that we were just talking about, you can get a pretty good deal. Now, granted, usually you can only get those deals if you pay rack rate. So you might have to pay rack rate for your room, but you get deals on the. So it's going to depend on what your family makeup is.
Yeah.
If you have one adult and, two adults and 3 kids, maybe the tickets are a better way to go or maybe it's the room, because there aren't very many 5-person rooms at Disney. It's really going to come down to like what's best for you. And that's why you should probably use a travel agent. We've got plenty of our friends of the show who are.
Yeah. If you're looking for a travel agent, just shoot us a message and we can point you in the right direction.
Absolutely. So that's really all I had for news this week.
Yeah, it's a tough one to start with, and I know it's kind of a downer, and I know it's negative and we're grumpy about it, but I mean, who's going to be positive about that? That's an unfortunate thing that we have to discuss, but who's going, yes, now I get to spend $5 more on parking, or now it's $109 is the cheapest park ticket,
That's for one day.
Yeah,
I will tell you that like for a multi-day ticket, like went up significantly. Significantly. So it is what it is. Like prices are always going to go up, and I knew they were coming, and it's not a shock, and they always raise their prices. I just think that it sends weird messages, mixed signals.
It does.
When you're putting deals out there and then raising the prices. It just leave the price alone and don't put the deal out there. Yeah. Say, hey, this year we're not even going to raise prices. That would probably make them,
It would make them more money. It would draw more people in.
I mean, maybe not.
I don't know.
Who knows? They employ a whole bunch of, corporate psychologists who go through and do this for a living, and figure out how to make people spend money. Well, it is what it is.
They may also ignore those people and just do what they want to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned message us and drop us a message. So where can people do that? Well, you guys can do it at Instagram, at DizListPod, Twitter at DizListPod, all those things at DizListPod. You can reach out to us. And we also have a nice chat feature over on Patreon, www.patreon.com/DizListPod.
I actually checked that out last weekend.
Yeah.
I went in and looked around, and I didn't have the app at all for Patreon.
Oh, really?
So I downloaded the Patreon app and looked around inside. Is different.
The app definitely has the chat feature, whereas the website, I'm not sure.
I will say, for anybody that's listening that is not super tech savvy, and I mean, we are. It's something we both enjoy. I teach tech classes, so does Nick. But from just a person who kind of analyzes the way apps look and work and their user interface or whatever you want to call it, it was very easy to use. It was very smooth. It was very obvious where to go, how to do it. I think the people that designed that app did a very good job. It was not incredibly complicated.
So like, and the other cool thing on the app is like our patrons are active in the chat a little bit, and like Jess W, she actually posted a picture of her with her Dizless Pod
way
sticker on her way to MCO.
That is cool.
Yeah. So it's nice that people like are posting that in there, and
please post more photos there. That's great.
Yeah. So I do think that it's a cool thing that they've done, and they really have added to some of the functionality of the app, and
it was easy. I was very impressed.
Yeah, and you don't even have to be a paying subscriber or paying patron. You can be a subscriber, like follow us.
Yep, I saw that too.
And so you follow us.
It's like one click. It's simple.
Yeah, and you can follow and do your thing.
Yeah, so I actually went in. I was like, what other podcasts can I follow? Because that's kind of fun too. If obviously, well, maybe we're the only podcast you listen to. I doubt it. If not, we have some other great ones to suggest. But you can go in and follow other podcasts too. And I don't know if they have the interact feature. We're just the coolest, and we have that. But and we like to interact too. And very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool that we're able to do that with followers and stuff there.
Yep.
If you don't want to do the Patreon thing and like chat there, trust me, I'm pretty active on the Instagram stuff. So if you send me a message there, but the cool thing with the chat one is it's like a little chat room just for Dizless people. So it's kind of fun. But we're going to head off to the halftime show. And this week it's going to be brought to you by Jessica W for her sticker that she's sporting on her way to MCO.
Cool. We appreciate it.
Really appreciate that. That was yesterday. So she'll hear this Wednesday. She's excited to see Chewbacca, she says. So. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about our top 5 in-park IP or in-park originals, however you want to think about it.
Yep.
I think this is going to be an interesting show.
Yep.
Disney has moved away from this, and I wish they wouldn't. I'm not anti-movie IP, but I am very pro in-park original IP.
Well, the rumor is there's one coming.
Really?
Yeah. In
What?
Disneyland.
Oh, okay.
They're going to be doing, it's not Swiss Family Robinson anymore. They're creating new and original characters for the Treehouse attraction, I heard.
I thought it was Tarzan. Okay.
No, I think they're getting rid of Tarzan. It's a rumor. You can look it up. But
well, that's good. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I had heard that they were going to go back to creating an original IP that has to do with the Explorers. What's the name of the Explorers group that's connected to
Society of Explorers and Adventurers?
That's it. Yeah. So that's
cool.
That's a rumor I heard.
Well,
we'll see.
I'm excited to hear your list. I think so. When I left my house today, my son said, "I can guarantee you, I know Mr. A's list." So I think it's kind of funny.
Probably.
I think that some of the stuff he named, are definitely on your list. Yeah. They're probably on my list too.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So I want to hear let's go ahead and just dive right in here.
Well, I'll be honest. I reordered these many, many times.
Me too.
And I think I'm where I need to be right now for certain reasons.
Okay.
I tried to go through everything. I tried to list off, and I have a lot of honorable mentions, but I think the honorable mentions for me was just like, okay, here's everything that exists. So when I get to the honorable mention part, it's like, here's a thing, here's a thing, here's a thing. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that they need to be on the honorable mention list, but we'll see how much we overlap. Now, my number 5, I think, are awesome characters that are often overlooked, and I think more than likely this is on your list because this is one of your favorite things. At the park.
Okay.
And I think it's underrated, and I also think what a great show this would make, like a Disney Plus show if they focused on these birds. And I think number 5 for me is the Tiki Birds, because they're such cool characters and it's such a great original IP to have in the park that I kind of think of it similar to, Tres Caballeros, where maybe they have I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but imagine if they had a Disney Plus show where the birds were traveling around the world
I
and
think
teaching kids,
Yeah.
here's Switzerland, and
I think that'd be a great.
wouldn't that be cool?
It would be. I I love the tiki room.
So tiki birds, I think, would make, and it's the original animatronics. Like it's the first things that the Imagineers really came up with and had those birds talk and sing, and it's really, really impressive. And I know there's loud clicking sounds when you're in there, but
that's part of the charm.
It is, and I think everybody loves it, and even kids that go in there, they enjoy it too. And everything about it is such a fun.
There's always something new to find.
Interesting attraction. I love it, and these kind of moved around on my list, but I'm happy that the Tiki Birds stayed on here, and they're great. They're fun characters. It's great songs. I don't know. It's a great attraction. My number 5 is the Tiki Birds.
Okay, so my number 5, and I know that you are kind of talking about character wise, but I'm talking about just like in general storyline, all of the whole thing here. My number 5 is going to be Pirates of the Caribbean.
Cool.
I think that yes, I know they made movies, but they made movies from the ride.
Right. I'm the same way.
So that is different.
Yeah. Yeah. And I may mention that at some point too, but I'm with you so far.
Yeah. Pirates for me is definitely one of the coolest IPs. When you go through that storyline, when you're on that boat and the story is being told, it's just a lot of fun. There's no way around it. It's a fun ride. It's a fun story. And yes, now it's got Johnny Depp inserted into it. And yeah, they've changed the story, I think, for the better personally. But the whole idea is just so cool and zany. You got these pirates getting chased chasing people in circles around these barrels, and you've got the woman chasing her husband with a broom. And
That's so funny.
Like, and the drunk pirates, that are sitting up on the bridge and stuff, and the dog at the end with a key. I just think that whole ride and that whole attraction definitely is something that is worthy of being number 5 on my list of in-park originals.
Great choice. I may be talking about that one a little bit later, and
okay,
maybe I can add to it.
Okay.
Number 4 for me is really going to be a surprise, and I think we're going to have some people like Mark M who are going to write in about this. I put Haunted Mansion at 4.
I am not surprised that it's not number 1 for you. I'm surprised it's 4.
Yeah,
but I'm not surprised
for a couple reasons. And I put some notes here, and I had to justify everything and why it was where it was. So the movie really factors in here. Obviously, they just turned it into a movie this past summer. So, and probably a lot of people are watching it right now because it's on Disney Plus. Have you seen it yet?
I did.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What'd you think?
It was
okay.
Cute.
Yeah.
It was good. It was, not good. Okay.
It was okay.
It wasn't bad.
No.
There were some parts where I was like, that's funny. And then there were other parts I was like, why?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Did you enjoy seeing the guest appearances from all the different things that are in the ride?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was, for me, that was the best part of it.
Yeah. That was probably the cool thing.
Yeah. So I like the fact that those characters have mystery to them, and that I don't know a lot about them. Like, I don't really want to know Madame Leota's backstory.
Right.
I just like the fact that there's this spooky floating head, and they kind of go into that in the movie, but I don't have to buy into that being canon for the ride. My experience on the ride is my experience. So what I like about Haunted Mansion is just this giant cast of characters. There's so many characters that they've created on this great ride. The singing heads, and I've been waiting to show you, Nick, my socks that I got.
Yeah, I see that
this week.
Haunted Mansion socks.
Yeah, nice. My friend Todd, who listens to the show, Todd sent me a message and said, "Hey, check out these Haunted Mansion socks from Stance," and I responded back with "purchased." So they have the singing heads on my socks, and in the ride, the gravedigger guy with his dog, Madame Leota, Hatbox Ghost, the hitchhiking ghosts are probably the most iconic. The bride. There's so many great characters, but they're very important to the park, but I think I like the fact that they're kind of a mystery and they just exist there. they're only in that house. You don't see Hatbox Ghost walking around, other than maybe they would do that at like the Halloween party. But I like that they just exist there. They're good characters. They're really important IP, but it stays there.
Yeah, so like
the happy haunts are in the haunted mansion.
And it's literally inside that fenced-in area, and that's it.
Yep.
Kind of thing.
So great characters. I enjoy them. I don't want to know a ton about them. I just like that they're spooky and they exist there. So that's my 4.
My number 4 is actually the opposite. That this IP has spilled over into other areas, specifically a very specific place across the walkway. And yes, you did spoil a bit of my list, because number 4 for me is Jungle Cruise.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to take it off. I didn't want to edit that out at the beginning of the show.
Sure. I don't have it at all on even my honorable mention, because I don't really see them as characters, but I'm interested in what you're going to say here.
Because it is IP. It is a story that's being told.
Sure.
The shtick kind of pours over into Jungle Skippers for the restaurant. I think the story that's being told in that whole area, whether you're on the ride or in the restaurant, is worthwhile. And it's something, obviously they made a movie out of it, right?
Yeah.
But this idea of like this kind of like lovable idiot, right? That's captaining you through this attraction. When you think about what it really is and the idea behind it and Walt's vision, I think that this is something you have to put on a list of park originals. Now, I know you didn't, that's fine, but park original IP, because
I don't argue with you, but I see it that way now. But when I'm going through my list, I don't look at it from that perspective. But I do agree with you.
I just think that what makes this special is that it can survive outside of the ride itself, and it spills over into that restaurant, where that restaurant is also telling you a story inside there, where you've got, the Society of Explorers and Adventurers room. You've got you've got all these different areas within that restaurant and stories in that restaurant that they're telling. And the wait staff themselves are skippers. I've made no bones about saying that it's not one of my top rides. I don't enjoy this ride that much.
But it doesn't need to be a top ride to be
right. That's why
an important one.
To recognize, for me I can still recognize its importance and like what the IP does and its value to the parks itself. So number 4 for me is Jungle Cruise.
Well, and that's perfect segue into my number 3, which I'll get right to it. Number 3 is the Country Bears. And not because I love it so much, but what has really become an important experience in the Magic Kingdom is the fact that those characters are always out, and you can always get pictures with the Country Bears. You can dance with the Country Bears, and they've become these kind of, iconic characters just for being around. Like, even if you don't go in and watch the show, you just know that you're in Frontierland, and there's these funny, lovable, sometimes scary looking, sometimes doofy looking characters who are, very friendly and walking around. And I really think that that's become a very important part of the Magic Kingdom in general. And even if you don't know their names, you're like, oh, that's that funny looking bear, or that scary looking bear, or the bear with the, the giant mouth and lips,
Romeo.
Right. Who's been renamed recently.
Yeah.
But I just love those characters. And again, this is totally in addition to the show, like the show is huge and so many beloved characters in Grizzly Hall. But I just like that it's become a thing, and the dance party. And I think kids and adults, it's nostalgic for me, really enjoy that. And I'm glad that if they're going to rebrand, they're rebranding it to something that's still Country Bears. Do I want it to stay the way it is? Sure. But we say all the time, Walt says this is not a museum. It's going to grow and it's going to and change. And I am trying to be appreciative to the fact that those characters that I love are still going to be there, even if they're singing, country style Disney songs. So I will still get to see them, and the walk around characters will still be part of it. So for me, number 3 is the Country Bears.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great pick. I might talk later about them. Not at 3, because at 3 I'm going to talk about something we've already talked about as well.
Mm-hmm.
Tiki Room.
Yeah.
Okay, so
they're fun. Jose's a great underrated character.
And I have never even thought about the fact they could really build a show.
Yeah. I don't see a movie.
No, but a kid's show or,
even an educational show.
Yeah. I mean, there definitely could be some sort of an animated feature, but I don't know if that would be a good animated feature, to be honest with you. But as far as a show goes, I think that it would play.
Yeah.
That particular IP, I think, is important, not because it doesn't spill over really a ton, but they do sell plenty of merch. They have, my son's got a really cool Tiki Bird hat or Enchanted Tiki Room hat. I just love that. That attraction makes me happy. It makes me think of like everything that Disney represents. It is an attraction that it shocked me that I liked. What I mean by that is when I was told, when we were planning our trip to Disney, my wife told me a story about how her best friend from college, or one of her best friends from college, said to her that's her father's favorite attraction. And my wife was trying to describe it to me, and I was like, I know that sounds lame. And then we went in, and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like you got everything is going on in that
no matter
room.
Where you sit, you're just absolutely encompassed
and the reason that I want to put it so high isn't necessarily because the IP is such that, like you mentioned, it could be a Disney Plus show. It's because it is iconic and it paved the way, I feel, for a lot of the other things that they do at Disney with the animatronics.
Absolutely.
And when you think about what they do. Now, here's what I will say. I hope that in the future, if they choose to rebrand the Tiki Room again, like they did one time, right, under new management, they brought it back to the original.
Iago and Zazu.
Yeah. Now, if they go back to redo this, I want them to give it the Country Bears treatment that they're giving it, with new animatronics, but they're keeping it as the Tiki Room. There's nothing like controversial, I don't think, about the Tiki Room. Maybe I could be wrong. But like, I think that if they ever decide to undo this or to change this attraction, I hope they give it the Country Bears treatment, is what I want to say.
Yeah, I hope so too. I don't think they necessarily need to.
No, this isn't quite as bad as Country Bears, but that's just me.
And I think the Country Bears needs it now. I think just because, and I'll be completely honest, a couple of those songs are pretty off color.
Yeah.
And I don't want people who listen to mistake me personally for condoning some of the things in those songs.
Some of the misogyny.
Yeah. So that's not me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, like, okay, change it up. You're going to get more people who are going to love it, and
so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So number 3 for me was Tiki Room. What's your number 2?
Number 2, I had to bring up a graphic really quick because I had to remember the name of the character. So number 2 is actually Pirates for me.
Okay.
So I think Pirates is really interesting because those characters before, even pre-movies, it's similar to the Haunted Mansion where there's all of these like great characters that exist within the ride.
Yeah, the prisoners remind me of the Hitchhiking Ghost,
right? With the dog and the whistling at the end of the ride, and the drunk guy with the pig, and the other one with the cat, and the woman running with the broomstick. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean,
they're so iconic that if you drew them, like if somebody drew a picture, like an animated version of them,
yep,
like you often see with Hitchhiking Ghost,
yes,
immediately, who they're trying to portray.
So then you mentioned that they added in Jack Sparrow to the ride, but then as you were talking, I go, you know what? They added Jack Sparrow back in. I don't really feel like it ruined the ride. It was kind of cool that I think he pops up 3 times. I think he's in the barrel, and then I think he's somewhere else, and then he's at the end with the gold. I think 3 times. But the other one I just remembered as you were talking is they have Barbossa, who's on the pirate ship that they added in later on too.
Yep.
And I can't remember who the original captain was, and I know I've seen it innumerable amount of times, but I think that's cool that those characters were added in and they really fit. I know there's a lot of people that are upset that they're kind of shoehorning in the Hatbox Ghost at the beginning because the ghosts aren't supposed to be there yet. I'm going to reserve judgment until I see it. And I'm not going to automatically hate it.
Right. But you got to admit that the way they did it in Pirates was way more seamless.
Yes, I would agree. And let's hope that this is really cool too, the way they do Hatbox. Now, I've seen Hatbox in real life at Disneyland, and it's really impressive. Really impressive. And I'm guessing that the reason they put it in a different spot, it has to just be because of the way things are set up. It couldn't fit there. Has to do something with that. Like, why would they?
I can't imagine that they would do. There's a logical reason. Yes, I'm with you. Correct. Yeah.
And it seems like a good spot for the Hatbox Ghost because, and I don't, again, let's make up our own story separate from the movie. You have the bride with the axe, and then all of a sudden there's a ghost whose head goes into a box. Like, let's put two and two together here.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe that's the husband whose head was removed and it's now in a hat box,
Perhaps.
And then from there, you know the rest of the story. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I had pirates for two. They're great characters. They're super iconic. My pirates and bears and haunted mansion switched around, and honestly, we could really kind of switch them in any order. They're all great. They're all awesome original IP. And at some point, I'd like to do a Patreon with one or two ideas I have that are almost missed opportunities to add in original IP into rides that don't really have characters or really anybody at all.
Like stories and all.
Yeah, so I'd like to do that at some point too. I had a couple ideas. So my two is pirates. What did you have for two?
My number 2 is Country Bears.
Okay.
Because the reason they are higher for me than Tiki Room is that exactly something you talked about. They walk around. They're an entity outside of their own attraction, right? I am trying to think. Okay, there's only one other that I can think of where there are characters that walk around that are not movie characters, that are not cartoon characters. They are straight up park characters.
Yep.
And I can only think of one other. So I think that's why for me these guys have to be number 2. They're just fun. Like when you meet Big Al and he gives you a hug, you're like, oh man, you're hugging a real live teddy bear.
I know.
And like
I know.
When you meet Romeo, I have to call him Romeo and Wendell.
Wendell is scary. I love him.
Yeah, but like I love like going by. Like they're really well. Like whoever trains these cast members too, by the way, does a great job because when you go by on the boat, you can wave to them. And they will find you and they will point at you when they're up on the balcony. You're walking by and like I've seen it with you. You had your shirt on and they were like, Big Al.
I had my Big Al shirt and I showed Big Al. And,
yeah,
I got my picture with him. He was up on the balcony and I still got a photo with him. It was cool.
Yeah, like I just think that they do such a good job of bringing folks in, and then like the first time we went, my kids were like, who are these bears, right? Because they're not anything you've seen from a movie. And then you go in to Grizzly Hall and you're like, oh, that's who those people are. And now it makes sense. And like, I can't wait, honestly, for the new one because I know that there are people who are upset that they're losing their beloved songs. I think it's actually going to be really cool that they're doing Disney-fied, or I should say country-fied Disney songs.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be fun. And it's going to be better for kids because kids going in there like, I don't know those other songs, nor do I want them to know those other songs. So yeah, my number 2, Country Bears. We've already said a lot about Country Bears, so I'm excited.
Yeah. So does this mean we match up on number one?
I think when I left my house today, my son said, I know Mr. A's list.
Yep. Yep.
I think that the reality is he knew that we both picked this for number 1.
Yeah, and it has this character has the biggest, most giant impact on this park, and this character. Well, it's funny because
it's the only other one, right?
Yeah. The majority of my first 4, other than this, so 5, 4, 3, and 2 are all Magic Kingdom, and this one's an Epcot character, and my number 1 is Figment.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, just because of the impact, and I know the ride. A lot of people don't like it. I know we have a friend of the show, Eric, can't stand Figment, and I get it. There's a lot of people who don't like Figment, and Figment is a polarizing character. But Figment, has a personality. Figment is the star of the entire ride. Used to kind of share it with the Dreamfinder a little bit. Dreamfinder's great too, and definitely underrated. And I'd love to bring him back in some way. But Figment has become the icon of that park.
I think that with the direction that, like, what's old is new again kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of like a steampunk area that involves Dreamfinder and Figment
That'd be cool.
would be really cool.
Yeah.
I think you will see sooner rather than later that they will redo that ride. And there's been multiple iterations of it.
Yep.
We're not living with the worst one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
There was one in between that didn't last very long that was
Yeah.
worse. But we're also not living with the best. And so Figment for me, I always just I love Figment. I haven't met him yet, but like, prior to a month ago or 2 months ago, the Country Bears were the only in-park originals that walked around, and now you've got also Figment. He's not walking around, but he's doing meet and greets.
Yep.
Now, I think that was rushed and hurried. It wasn't rushed and hurried actually, because it took them a year to figure it out. But they didn't do any. I don't like what they did with the meet and greet, where he's just coming out of the same tunnel that Ralph did. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
At least he's meeting and greeting. I don't know. Figment is great. I love Figment merch. My daughter has these Figment socks that have like horns on them that are like hilarious. She wore to school the other day, and I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Where are my Figment socks?" I'm like, "But is it a theme day at school? Like, what's going on today?" She's like, "No, I wanted to wear my Figment socks."
I just want to wear them.
I'm like, "Okay." They've got like, there are horns that come like Figment's head. So it's just kind of funny.
That's cool.
They're cool socks, but it's one of my favorites. Right? It's something I won't skip, even though it's a tragically awful ride right now.
Yeah,
I won't skip it. The animatronics are
worse.
always like, there are worse. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, how do you not have Figment on it? No, you can't not have it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad your son was right.
Yeah. Now I do have some honorable mentions. I know you said you have a list.
Yeah.
Like of everything.
Well, I had to think of all of them, and I actually thought of another one while we were talking.
Okay.
And I forgot about there's an original Star Wars character that exists, and that's DJ Rex.
Oh yeah.
So DJ Rex is voiced by the late Pee Wee Herman.
Yes.
So DJ Rex is an original for
Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, Star Tours first.
Oh, sorry, Star Tours.
I think Star Tours first, and then
they repurposed them, right?
Yeah, and then he's in the bar where we went and hung out.
Yeah,
the actual animatronic version.
So I've got a few as well. But one of them I think is, you probably wouldn't necessarily think of it as in-park original IP, but I do, and that's It's a Small World.
Yeah,
like all those characters in there are.
Yep, I had that.
I have it on. I have Haunted Mansion on my honorable mention. I have one I bet you didn't think about. I wonder if they're on your list. Orange Bird.
Yeah.
Is Orange Bird on your list?
And Chubby. There's the two birds.
Yeah.
Chubby's from Runaway Railway.
Yeah.
Orange Bird's not really a character, but it's kind of an icon for the parks, I guess.
Specifically.
The Florida Orange.
Yeah. Specifically, like Epcot, he shows up a lot.
Yeah.
Do you have any other ones?
John from Carousel of Progress.
Oh my gosh. How did I forget about John?
He counts. He's an in-park IP, so I had John.
He got a new sweatshirt.
Sunny Eclipse is the character that sings at Cosmic Rays. And then the only other one I had...
Sunny Eclipse looks like a giant gremlin.
He does.
Anyway.
Mixed with Alf.
Yes. It's Alf and gremlins.
And
Alf
then
he got wet.
And then I had the Yeti. The Yeti could have a name. The Yeti could be a character. The Yeti could be a walk-around.
Disco Yeti?
Why not?
How hilarious would it be if they leaned into that?
Why not?
And at an after-hours party at Animal Kingdom or something, they had a stage,
Disco Yeti.
A dance party, a disco.
That would be great.
And Yeti was there. If they leaned into that, people would be like, okay, you're owning up to your mistake. You're owning up to the fact that it doesn't work. That would be
awesome.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, all it is just a repurposed Chewie costume.
Yeah. And what they could do is close off, all the areas back where you go walk on, Gorilla Falls and those areas, close all that off. You can walk into kind of the Avatar area with all the lights.
They're doing just that.
Yeah.
For the not the after hours, but for the resort.
Well, they could set up that area where they were doing kite tails. Yeah. And they could play music, and I don't know.
I think
Might be
I think
kinda
it would
cool.
be. I think if they leaned into it and had Disco Yeti,
Uh-huh.
like you could. I'm picturing a guy wearing like a '70s like leisure suit and a and a darn Yeti costume. I think it'd be hilarious
It would
if they
be
if they
awesome.
leaned into the Disco Yeti. But yeah, so that was our list of our favorite original like in park IP, and I gotta say, I when you start reminiscing, it makes you wish they would do more of it.
I know.
And now I'm not necessarily a full blown anti IP guy, but man, having another like having Imagineers be creative and creating things like Country Bears again would
Yeah.
be amazing. So I don't know, but it's been a great big beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow's just a list away.
Tune in next time, and we'll see you real soon.